me introduce you to what wonderful instructor we have today for you, Melanie Pandit. All right, and here you go. Melanie, I know Melanie for quite many years now, and I know she has been leading meditation and she has been practicing meditation for many years, and she has been teaching publicly and privately to many seekers. And she has done multiple programs at a community level, library nearby you, or and even in corporate environments where people have invited her for to lead those classes. She has helped a lot of people to get into that deep meditative state of thoughtless awareness, and people are in bliss. I've experienced myself, and I've attended multiple classes. So I definitely enjoy her classes, and I'm pretty sure you will do so. um, Beside that, of course, Melanie loved traveling. She has traveled to many countries and multiple times to India, and has worked into various different fields, including arts and education, dance, pregnancy and birth support. That's just amazing, right? Um, she's proud mother of two kids. In free time, she enjoys gardening and she loves spending time in nature, and especially where she lives, that is upstate New York, where we have a lot of countryside and we all enjoy that beautiful open sky and beautiful lakes and woods, right? With that, I welcome you once again and pass you to Melanie, who will walk you through. And I know you guys are in very advance. Hope you will enjoy this session. Thank you. Bye now.
Thank you so much, Amit. Hello and welcome to everyone. There's a lot of familiar faces in this room. It's great to be here with those that I know well and those that I have never met before. It's really a pleasure. I'm so happy to be here with you today. So to get us to know a little bit about the group we've got, we'd love for you to go ahead and use the chat box to either chat to everyone or just to the host, which is me, a little bit about who you are, where you live, how long you've been meditating. It will give us a better idea of who we've got in the room. I can tell you from the registrants, those that registered for this series, while you're typing, I'll just let you know that we had about 190 or so people sign up for this class. So we're glad to see 30 to 40 here today. It's a great turnout. We love getting the chance to do this. We don't have to worry about room size, although we do have a limit of 100. And those that responded were really from the whole spectrum of upstate New York, from Buffalo, Rochester, Syracuse, Utica, Mohawk Valley, Capital Region, Southern Tier, down to Westchester County, even a few out-of-staters. So welcome to everyone. We're really glad that we could be here. Loving to see everybody. Got some first timers. Cooperstown, Buffalo, fantastic. First time, 20 years, really fantastic. Lovely to see how long you've been meditating. Those of you that have a lot of experience and those that have none, everyone is going to get something from this class today. So thank you so much for chiming in a little bit about who you are and your experience. We're all here together, and it's great to have that community feeling, even if it does span quite a large distance. So a little bit about what we're going to be doing today. I'm going to start by telling you about this 7-week series, and then we'll be spending a good deal of time talking about the Sahaja technique before we get into the crux of the class today, which is our guided meditation session. After which we'll leave you with tips and tricks of how to meditate, continue the practice on your own. At home, we'll be leaving the last 10 minutes of class for questions and answers. So if you do have any questions, go ahead and take a note. We would love to hear you chime in with those at the end of the class today. So you're here for a 7-week series. You're probably familiar with what this is all about, but just in case you're not, this class came about as a result of a group of us Sahaja instructors living throughout upstate New York, recognizing that in this time, many of us are not able to do what we love, which is teach you on a face-to-face level because of the pandemic. So those of us that were teaching online got together with those that were not and we made this series so that we could really introduce you to Sahaja and at the same time give you the opportunity to meet multiple instructors and kind of see the Sahaja perspective from each of their lenses. So we've got a great group of instructors that are going to be teaching you over the next 6 weeks after today, and I look forward to joining each one with you. If you have not registered, by the way, and we'd love that most of you have registered. If you haven't, go ahead and do so on our website, Meditate Upstate. It will enable us to communicate with you in case there's anything we need to tell you in relation to this class today. Thank you so much for that. So let's get into this technique, but we're going to begin with a little bit of a basic kind of fundamental question: what meditation is all about. What is meditation and why in the world do we even want to do it? Just to get us all on the same page. Then we'll be talking about how to meditate, what's happening, and the origin of the Sahaja technique. So I like to get to the fundamentals so that we're kind of all on the same playing field when we're talking about meditation. So what I do is I look back and I see what the National Institute of Health has said about meditation. Let's see what that standard is. What is this word that we throw around so much? And the answer is, unfortunately, maybe more complicated than the question. So the National Institute of Health has attempted to define meditation. And if we look back about 20, 30 years ago, the definition was a conscious mental process that induces a set of integrated physiological changes termed the relaxation response. So what we can see from that is that meditation is anything that's going to allow us to relax. Okay, that's good. Let's move on. 2006. This is the year that I want to focus on because this is when the alternative wing of the National Institute of Health, which is known as the National Center for Complementary and Integrative Health, went out on a limb and gave a very concise definition of what meditation is. So here we go. Meditation refers to a group of techniques, most of which started in Eastern religious or spiritual traditions. In meditation, a person learns to focus his or her attention and suspend the stream of thoughts that normally occupy the mind. So focusing attention, suspending the stream of thoughts. Really concise, really precise. Since then, because of the environment that we're in, there are so many different practices of meditation, so many ways in which we approach this word. Our current definition is, again, kind of abstract. So the current definition, according to the National Institute of Health, is meditation is a mind and body practice that has a long history of use for increasing calmness, physical relaxation, improving physiological balance, coping with illness, and enhancing overall health and well-being. That's all great. And I agree with every single one of these. From my experience with meditation, they're all true. But towards the beginning and the end, we've got really catch-all definitions that are going to allow anything to fit into that definition. Anything that makes you feel relaxed, calm, really is going to allow that definition of meditation to apply. I don't love that personally. And the reason for that is because if we want to look at meditation and compare it, scientifically compare it, we need to be able to compare apples to apples. So I'm going to focus on this middle definition, focusing his or her attention and suspending the stream of thoughts. It's the most concise, precise definition, and coincidentally, it applies to what we're talking about today. So if we look at it like a spectrum, anything in that relaxation area is potentially something that involves some type of thought activity. But if we move down to this, focusing attention and suspending the stream of thoughts, we're talking about less thoughts, less mental activity. So we can look at that like a spectrum, reducing inactivity. In the middle there, multiple meditation or relaxation practices will fit in that general area. And I'm going to focus on a few, beginning with the word meditation itself, which is kind of a misnomer. It kind of throws us backwards because the word meditate literally is defined as to think deeply about something. I want to meditate on something means I'm going to think deeply about it. So that's kind of contradictory to what we're talking about, but let's just throw it into the mix. Then we've got the meditation techniques that involve the use of mantras or sounds or phrases All of those techniques are using some form, in this case, mantras, sounds, or phrases to direct our attention. And through the repetition of those sounds or phrases, we're directing our thought so that potentially we can reduce the frequency of activity in our mind. The same is true for movement and meditation, using movement to formalize our directed attention. So we're directing our attention into movement and thereby not having as much attention or not as much activity in our mind, using that movement to hopefully reduce our frequency of thought. Breath, yoga, any type of following body rhythms or controlling our body, similar in that we are using some kind of activity, some kind of structure, and using that structure to hopefully get to a place where our thought is going to reduce. Mindfulness is different altogether. It may involve some of these types of meditation or relaxation exercises, but overall, the intention of mindfulness is to step away from our mind, step away from all of that activity, not necessarily reduce our thoughts, but observe them. So that looking at our thoughts, looking at that frequency, and not reacting to what's happening. So the word itself defines it. There is activity going on. It's mindfulness, but we're stepping away from that. So all of those activities, as you can see, involve some type of mental process, some thought. It's not fully suspension of thought. Sahaja is definitely unique in that it is all about diving into the absolute absence of thought. One more thing I'd like to introduce you to, just so you understand what this is all about, is how the frequency of brain activity is measured. So if we look at brain wavelength, and any kind of chart like this that you will look at will be generally similar to this. What we're looking at is how our brain wavelength is measured. And so it's measured in terms of frequency from gamma at the higher frequency all the way down to delta at the lower frequency. So this is an example of, in 1 second of time, how much activity we are having at any 1 second in time. And that thereby constitutes the measurement of our brain wavelength. It's a bit of a generalization and tricky, I'm sure, for neurologists or neuroscientists to do, because when you're looking at the brain, you're looking at regions of the brain, the hippocampus, the cortex, the frontal lobe. And when you're measuring these frequencies, you're looking at it in different regions of the brain. So it's not like you can hook yourself up to one machine and see what frequency your brain is at. Every area of the brain will have different frequencies. But we can look at some of the corresponding behaviors that correspond to those frequencies present in different areas of the brain. I hope that makes sense. So that's where we've got this column over here. So high frequencies can relate to things like anxiety and seizures. Generally, we live in the beta area. So that's our conscious thought. That's our external focus. It's a normal waking consciousness. So lots of activity in our normal activity when we're awake. Alpha, a little bit reduction in activity. This is a more spacey observation. Our receptivity is a bit more passive. If we move on to theta, and you may be familiar with theta meditations, a lot of recommendations for those, because there have been some studies to see that meditations often result in theta frequencies in the mind. And again, that's a generalization, depends on what meditation you're looking at. If you're looking at a thinking meditation, it may not give you those same results, but that's our subconscious, our creativity, and meditation or deep meditation. Then we get into delta. So delta is our lowest frequency. It's the most quiet activity in our mind. This is our deep sleep, or our NREM, so non-rapid eye movement sleep. That's the sleep that we want. That's why we sleep for a long time, so we can get a good amount of deep sleep. Why do we want deep sleep? Because that's when a great deal of healing takes place. Our memory consolidation takes place. And in terms of healing, our cells regenerate, our tissues repair. There are hormones that help in the regeneration of matter within our entire being. So that's a good thing. So why do we meditate? Well, why do we get to a lower frequency in our brain? Why would we want to do that? Because a good deal of healing takes place in that space. So how do we meditate? Well, in the Sahaja technique, we're going for that thoughtlessness. We're going for that middle of the road definition, which is the most precise one, focusing our attention and suspending our thoughts. And we coined that in Sahaja as thoughtless awareness. So we're absolutely aware. We're not detached from reality. We're aware of the absolute moment in this reality, but we're not paying attention to thought. We're not immersed in thought. We're getting into a state where we are thoughtless. How do we do that? We direct our attention to the silent gap between our thoughts. So we're going to take a look in a moment at that brain wavelength again, just to understand what that means. What happens on a moment-to-moment basis when we're thinking? Well, our thoughts all correspond either to the past or the future. We're either thinking or planning or preparing for a future which may or may not come to be, or we're reacting to, ruminating about, regretting, processing the past. It's impossible to think about something that isn't corresponding to what's happened or what might happen. If we're in this present moment, there's absolutely nothing to think about. So in the Sahaja technique, what we're doing is directing our attention above the mind and looking for this area that we often ignore, this moment of the here and now, the present moment. So we'll take a quick look at this and see how it translates to our brain frequency. So if we look at this small sample, much less than a second of time, our alpha state, again, in our normal waking consciousness, we've got some frequency. If we look at each one of those peaks, we can consider them one thought or one blip of mental activity. It may be a fragment of a thought, it may be an idea, it might be something absolutely complete, but it's some form of mental activity. It's happening more in those higher frequencies, as you can see in beta. In theta, we've got less appearance of ideas or mental activity, and in delta, it's slowing down so much that we hardly have any. What happens is between these points, between each and every thought, is a silent gap. There is a silence of the present moment, of the gap between our thoughts. And so rather than paying attention to our ideas, listening and entertaining our thoughts, reacting to them, and just permitting them to take space in our mind, what we're doing in the Sahaja technique is we're focusing rather on the silence that exists between. And you'll see that just in this depiction, as our thoughts slow down, that silence is more apparent. The gaps are wider. And so by paying attention to the valleys, rather than the peaks, rather than jumping from thought to thought to thought, by focusing more on the valleys that exists, we're able to allow them to extend. So in the Sahaja technique of meditation, flatline is what we're aiming for. All right, so how do we do it? Well, just to sum up, we want to get into that state of thoughtless awareness. We're focusing our attention to that state where there is no thought. It's this present moment, and we do it twice a day, very simply, creating the conducive space for a living process to take place, which leads me to what's happening during this Sahaja technique. So how do we do it? We get into thoughtless awareness. What happens during that process? Hold on to your seats. All right, here we go. So during the process of meditation, there's a living process that actually starts to happen. And this section of today's class, I want you to take as an absolute hypothesis. I don't want you to believe me at all. We must approach this like scientists and take it as a hypothetical possible reality, and then see if we can verify that hypothesis through the experience of meditation, which we'll be getting to very shortly. So in this technique of meditation, hypothetically, there is within us a subtle energy system. And while we're meditating, that subtle energy system gets balanced, strengthened, and reestablished in its inherent quality. That energy system is comprised of three things: our inner energy, our 3 energy channels, and 7 energy centers. This has is something that has been talked about from the beginning of time, but it's largely lost knowledge that most of us are unfamiliar with, especially those of us that live in the West. So I'm going to briefly talk about those 3 areas within our subtle energy system, but to a large part, this is what you are going to be focusing on for the following 6 weeks of this series. So I encourage you to keep coming back to learn more about this system and getting more into meditation. So our inner energy resides in the triangular bone at the base of the spine. It's a healing energy. It's a feminine energy. The Greeks knew something was special about this bone, as they called it sacrum. Sacrum means sacred, and that's the word that is used in medical science, our sacrum bone. So this coiled feminine energy, wrapped in 3.5 coils, known as kundalini in eastern part of the world, especially in India, it awakens through meditation, and when it does so, it balances our entire subtle system. It works within 3 energy channels. We have our left channel, which corresponds to the past. It has the quality of our pure desire that is benevolent for our evolution. It's also our moon channel. Our right channel is the future channel. It corresponds to our action, pure action, that again, which is benevolent, which is for our evolution, and it is our sun channel. We typically swing from left to right on a regular basis, swinging from that past to our future like a pendulum, planning, reacting, preparing with that right channel, and then crashing to the left where we might have less energy, more emotional, ultimately depressed, focusing on the past, feeling insecure, picking ourselves back up again, and grabbing onto that right channel of activity. So we typically live in a pendulum. What we're doing in Sahaja is that we're reducing those extremes and allowing, encouraging, creating the conducive space for our inner energy to rise up from the base of the spine up our central channel. Our central channel is the channel of our evolution. And as that gets strengthened, those extremes reduce. A bit about our 7 energy centers. Many of us would be familiar with those because they're also known as chakras. Chakra simply means wheel. It's a wheel of energy. There's 7 of them. They correspond to the plexi within us. You'll be learning more about them in subsequent classes. And they govern our well-being, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. So what's happening, the actual happening that takes place when we get into this state of thoughtless awareness, is our inner energy in the sacrum bone rises up through these 7 energy centers or chakras. And in doing so, creates balance within them, returns them or restores them to their inherent balanced state. Once our inner energy reaches up to the 7th chakra at the crown of the head, the 7th energy center is located at the very crown of the head, and this bone in medical science is known as the fontanelle bone. Fontanelle means little fountain. All right, I'm turning off my video. I apologize. I just got a note that things are getting stuck. I'm just going to turn off my video for a moment. Hopefully that will fix the audio. So at the crown of the head, as our energy reaches up and culminates at the crown of the head, that happening unites the energy which exists within us to that energy which exists all around us. This is known as self-realization, that unity of the energy which exists within to that which exists all around us. This is also the definition of yoga. Yoga meaning simply union. So when that happens, each one of our energy centers, if they are in an imbalanced state, and some of this may be familiar to some of us, these are some of the many, many qualities that manifest when our chakras are not in a balanced state. We may be unfocused, uninspired, not satisfied. We might not be able to have discipline, feeling insecure, doubting ourselves, feeling guilty or lonely, reacting, aggressing others, aggressing ourselves. What happens when our inner energy works through our system, through the process of meditation, is that the inherent qualities get established. So our wisdom, our strengthened attention, our ability to be creative, to be peaceful, generous, satisfied, feeling that security and love within ourselves, that confidence, that courage, that fearlessness, the ability to communicate with love without aggression, not harming others, not harming ourselves, forgiveness. So these beautiful attributes start to manifest spontaneously. Sahaj means spontaneous. So through the process of this spontaneous meditation, this is what happens. How did this all come about? So if we look at the origins of this Sahaj technique, we can look to the founder of Sahaj, Srimataji Nirmala Devi. Srimataji took this ancient knowledge and repurposed it, represented it to enable a large population to be able to reach it, to be able to attain that experience of harnessing this energy and allowing that balance to happen within. She was born in 1923. In her youth, she was highly involved in the Indian independence movement until India achieved its independence in 1947. She and her family were very involved, very close with the Gandhi family. She spent her summers in his ashram. And as a young woman, a young girl actually, he considered her his spiritual advisor. She was known to be able to calm his very hot temper through the work that she did in Sahaja, which she began in 1970, teaching a very small group of people interested in learning this technique, this ability to get in touch with this energy within. For the last 40 years of her life, she did just that. As a result, she was nominated multiple times for the Nobel Peace Prize. All of this was based, or is still based, on this philosophy that the change comes from within. Anyone can experience it, and you won't benefit more by paying for it. As a result, we have the Sahaja meditation technique, the practice which has continued. It is now going on 50 plus years. It has continued to be a grassroots nonprofit movement or organization. It started in one country. It is now in more than 130. We in this country have working relationships with Health Corps, teaching meditation in the school system in a large extent in many cities throughout the country. We work with UNESCO and other organizations to support really great missions, global peace, understanding, and so forth, lots of corporate work and so forth. And despite where we teach, how we teach, when we teach, every single one of our classes are offered free of charge and offered by unpaid instructors. So Srimataji never took a cent for teaching this. She never took a thing from anyone because it just doesn't get better if you pay for it. And none of the teachers that you will find today will, under the umbrella of Sahaja, will take a penny for learning this technique. There's no fine print. There's no gotcha. There is just never a thing to pay for this. The only thing that you will get at the end is improved experience in your own life. And that just comes right back to us as instructors. So that being said, I filled you up with lots of brain fuel. Let's put it all aside and get ourselves ready for meditation. In order to do so, I'm going to introduce you to a few affirmations and gestures that we're going to be taking advantage of during our meditation today to help open up our energy centers. I'm going to turn on my video just so you can see me for this. I hope it doesn't disturb the audio. So if you're not comfortable doing any of these gestures or affirmations, you absolutely can sit in our home position. Our home position is palms open on the lap, fingertips apart from each other. So our fingers are apart and our palms are just open on our lap, just nicely sitting with our hands open on our lap. That's our home position. However, if you are comfortable moving your hand, we're going to be using our right hand. You don't have to memorize. I'll be guiding us through to do these very simple gestures. The Sahaja technique in general does not require any kind of movement. Our intention by using our hands, by repeating to ourselves these words, is to get to the core of the qualities of our energy centers. So if you're not comfortable at any point, go ahead and go back to our home position, palms open. Use the directed attention. That's what it's all about, to help open up our energy centers. So we start with our right hand on the left heart. We'll come down to the lower part of the stomach. So our right hand near the left hip. We'll come up to the upper part of the stomach on the left side. Coming on up to the left heart again, right hand near the left heart. Moving on to the left side of the throat. Our right hand is on the left side of the throat, and we're turning our head to the right, opening up that area on the left side of the neck. We're then going to take our right hand to the forehead, bending our head forward to rest our head into the palm of the right hand. And our final movement is taking our hand, spreading our fingertips, and taking the center of the palm and pressing it on the crown of the head. We're going to gently press and rotate on the crown of the head. And as we're pressing and rotating, focusing more on moving our scalp than moving our hand, we're going to open up that seventh energy center to experience that experience of self-realization. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get ready for meditation. I hope we'll be okay with the video on. I apologize if it's lagging. That never happens. So to get comfortable for our meditation, we're going to sit in that home position, palms open, fingertips apart, palms open on our lap. We can close our eyes, make sure all our sounds are off on any devices. You can take off your glasses, turn off any sounds, take off your shoes if that will make you feel more comfortable, and just sit and get nice and comfortable. Sitting on the ground, sitting in a chair, sitting on a sofa, anything works. Let's start by taking a deep breath in and then exhaling. As we close our eyes and turn our focus inwards, we'll find that our attention turns to our mind. All of a sudden, our eyes are closed, but our ears are swarming with noise, with ideas, with reminders, with observations, with reactions, with suggestions. Our mind is relentless. It just keeps going. Our job is to get through that forest and find the silence of this present moment. So we'll start with our very simple gestures and affirmations in order to take ourselves there. We'll begin with our right hand on the left heart, focusing our attention on the left side of the heart, or the left side of the chest, as our right hand is just gently placed there. This is the area within us that corresponds to our pure self. Our self, which is beyond our body, beyond our mind, beyond what we ate, beyond what we think, beyond what we believe, beyond what others think of us. Our pure self, or our spirit. So putting our attention on that self, that identity that we know, when the lights are off, when our eyes are closed, throughout our lives as we have changed from child to adult, let's pay attention to our spirit and ask that question silently from our hearts. Am I the spirit? Am I the spirit? Let's then bring our right hand to the lower part of the stomach on the left side. So our right hand is near the left hip. Press gently our right hand near the left hip or the lower part of the stomach. This is the left side of the second energy center. And this area relates to our pure knowledge. That knowledge which is true, which is connected with a truth that is universal, a truth that unites, that does not divide. If we look within ourselves, we can connect with that truth, which is pure, which is lasting, which is undebatable. So from our hearts, let's silently say, I want to have pure knowledge, pure truth. I want to be connected with that source of pure knowledge or pure truth within. Let's then bring our right hand to the left side of the stomach, our right hand just at the left side of our stomach area. So the upper part of our stomach on the left side. This area corresponds to our self-mastery. If we are able to get connected with the source of truth from within, then we can be our own teachers, our own masters, our own gurus. In recognition of that truth within, that inner voice, that instinct, that internal guiding force, let's say from our hearts silently, I am my own master. I am my own teacher. I am my own guru. Let's then come up to the heart, right hand at the left side of the heart. Right hand just over the left side of the chest. Back up to that area where we connect with our pure, formless self, our spirit or our soul. Here we'll say, I am the pure spirit. I am not this body. I am not this mind. I am not my ego, my conditionings. I am the pure self. I am the pure spirit. Let's bring our right hand up. We're coming up to the left side of the neck. So our right hand is on the left side of the neck where the neck meets the shoulder. And we can turn our head to the right to open up this area on the left side of the neck. This is an unfortunate depository where we store guilt, where we blame ourselves. Blaming ourselves, beating ourselves up, or carrying around guilt for the past won't change what has happened. So in order to open up this left side of our neck, the fifth energy center, let's let go of our guilt by saying from our hearts with complete conviction, silently but sincerely, I am not guilty. I am not guilty for anything at all. Let's come up to the forehead. After we've said that a few times, we're lightening our load, we're opening up our energy centers to get to our final spot. We're at the forehead level. We'll take our right hand and place it across the forehead, bending our head forward to rest our head into the palm of the right hand. This energy center opens up through forgiveness. Just as we let go of guilt, we can easily recognize that by carrying anger, resentment, any kind of spite, the desire to seek revenge, none of that will change the past or change the future. But it bogs us down at this sixth energy center. So let's cast out a great blanket of forgiveness, letting go of whatever has happened in order to open this energy center, to lighten our load, and to liberate ourselves from that anger and that resentment. So we'll say from our hearts, I completely forgive everyone. I forgive. Without exception, I completely forgive everyone. And I forgive myself. Our final step is to take the center of the palm and place it on the crown of the head. So we bend our head slightly forward and press gently on that spot that was soft in our infancy, right at the crown of the top of the head. So we're spreading our fingertips so that we can apply gentle pressure, gently pressing and rotating, giving this area a gentle massage. So as we do that, as we gently rotate the scalp, giving the area a gentle massage, let's scientifically desire this experience whereby our inner energy rises up and culminates at the crown of the head. That happening known as self-realization. So we can say from our hearts, I want to experience my self-realization. Or for those of us that have been meditating, that are here to deepen the experience, we can say, I want to deepen my self-realization. Let's bring our entire focus to this point between our hand and our head and really desire that our inner energy not only awaken, but rise up the central channel and culminate at the crown of the head. The strength of our desire is absolutely proportionate to our experience. Let's now slowly raise our hand up about an inch or two over the top of the head and see if we can feel anything without thinking about it. Just observe. If by moving our hand very slowly over the crown of the head, if there's any sensations we can feel close to or farther above the crown of the head. Let's keep our attention over our mind or try to get into that space where our focus is above all mental activity, above the mind, focused on the present moment, in between our thoughts. And as we do so, we can explore this area over the crown of the head and see what we might feel. Let's switch hands. We can bring our right hand to our lap and bring our left hand up and over the top of the head and explore that space close to the crown of the head or farther above and see what we might feel close to or farther above the crown of the head. Let's keep our focus there as we bring our hand back down to our lap, to our home position with our palms open on our laps. Now getting into that state of meditation where our attention is focused into the space where there's no thought. So we're looking for that silent gap between our thoughts, recognizing that each and every piece of mental activity corresponds to the future or the past. And rather than entertaining those thoughts, we're looking for the silence, directing our attention into the present moment, keeping our focus, if we can, about an inch or two over the top of the head, continually weaving our way through the forest of thought until we get to that clearing where there's no activity. Focusing on the silence and maintaining our attention there, and we'll continue in our meditation trying to establish our attention in thoughtless awareness, struggling as we will, just working to get there and maintain it just for a few moments as we meditate with a bit of music. Let's check at this point on where our attention is. Have we returned back to the state where we're just entertaining our mental activity? Or can we redirect our focus up and over the top of the head? We can use our hand to guide us, cupping our hand in front of us and very slowly raising our hand from the base of the spine to the top of the head, very slowly bringing our hand up, holding it in front of us about an inch or two in front of our body until our hand reaches the crown of the head. And once it gets there, let's see what we're feeling close to or farther above the top of the head. Let's see what we're feeling close to the head. Let's see what we're feeling as we move our hand farther above. Not thinking. There's no thought that is important right now while we're meditating. We can switch hands to comparatively observe, bringing our right hand back down to the lap and then checking with the left hand what we might feel close to or farther above the top of the head. We might feel more close to the head. We might feel more farther above. And finally, let's bring our hands back to our lap, but raise them off of our lap so that our palms are open at the level of the heart. So hands open in front of us so that we can turn our focus into the palms of our hands, into the fingertips, into the centers of our palms, palms open, keeping our focus above our mind, above the top of the head, looking for the present moment. Let's see if there's anything we might feel as we keep our hands open, fingertips apart. What is happening when we get into this state of meditation, when we're not engaged in thought, but we're focusing on the silence between our thoughts, bringing our attention fully into this present moment? What do we feel? We can then slowly bring our hands back down to our lap. We're going to bring our meditation to an end and open our eyes. The exercise that we did in the beginning of our meditation session is not something that you have to do every day. If you remember any of this, if it resonated with you, if it helped you, for example, taking the right hand across the forehead and saying, I forgive. If your intuition guides you and you remember any of these, you're welcome to use them in your meditation. But I'm going to suggest to begin in your meditation that you don't add on a whole lot of necessary ingredients. Let's keep it very simple. In order to continue and maintain and enhance your meditation practice, what we want to do is quite simply get our attention into this state of thoughtless awareness. Bring our attention up and over the top of the head. How are we going to do it? Very simply, carving out time to do it. Quality versus quantity. So it's not important that we carve out half an hour twice a day. We can do 10 to 15 minutes twice a day, but in those 10 to 15 minutes in the morning, once we wake up, before our mind gets very active, very busy, before we've swarmed it with thoughts, wake up, sit up, open our hands, and try to get into that state of thoughtless awareness. See what you're feeling over the top of the head. See what you're feeling in the palms of your hands. Try to establish that state. Get through the forest of noise and get to that present state of nothingness. Dynamic silence up and above the top of the head. Twice a day, so in the morning and in the evening before you're absolutely finished and you don't have any more energy left. Again, sit, hands open, fingertips apart, and try to get your attention up there. Let's keep it very simple in the beginning. Try to establish that state. We can pay attention to any sensations you're feeling on your hands or on the top of your head. That's it. Let's keep it very simple. You can join us weekly for these classes, and we hope you do. There are additional live guided meditations that you can find out there. For example, Sahaja Online is a wonderful one. If you have questions, we're going to have time for that now. We may go a few minutes over 8 o'clock. We hope you'll stick with us for those questions. Meditate Upstate, you can email us. You can register if you haven't. And there's a link on our site for continued learning if you want to know more. There's so much more in between. So let's go ahead and shout out our questions. Go ahead and use the chat box to do so. And I will happily answer your questions. And I do apologize for the video lag, but I hope you can hear me clearly, even if you're seeing me move around like a disjointed robot. So if you've got any questions, go ahead and chime in with them. Tell me what you felt. What did you feel? What did you feel? Especially for those of you that are here for the first time, what did you feel on the palms of your hands, the crown of the head? Did you feel anything? Did you feel nothing? Are you doubting it? Are you convinced? How about those thoughts? Did they reduce? Did they trouble you? Did they bother you throughout your meditation? Typically, that's a great question. Okay. How many times should we meditate every day? Twice a day is fine. Evenings, 15 minutes, 10, 15 minutes. Morning, 10 to 15 minutes. Candy, that's fantastic. Tingling, hand and heads. That's exactly what we want. So our energy is communicating to us. We're going to be learning more about what that means. It's waking up. Our engines are revving. Our systems are starting. And that's reflected in any type of activity that we can feel on our hands or our heads, circling energy on our palms. So our hands are the reflection of what's happening within our system. It's going to correspond to what our system is doing. If our system is in a balanced state or if it's not, it can be decoded on our hands. You're going to learn more about that. We're not going to get ahead of ourselves. If you're not feeling anything on the head or on the hands, vice versa, it's absolutely fine. Keep up with your meditation. Step one, get into this state of meditation. Get into that state, and thereby you will start feeling more on your hands and on the top of your head. Thoughts are too distracting. Physical pain, I know, absolutely. Physical pain gets in the way. How can we relieve the pain? So it will work to relieve the pain because our energy, as it comes up and gets us into the state of thoughtless awareness, it's getting us into that state where our pain receptors are going to dull. It's called the gate theory. And you can read more about that, how our pain receptors start to dull as oxytocin increases. And this is actually happening in the process of meditation. So it's tricky because our pain wants to distract us. Our ears, the noises want to distract us. Our mind wants to distract us. Make yourself comfortable. Sit in such a way that you don't have to pay attention to your body and get into that state where you cannot pay attention as much. You don't have to worry about being in a perfect lotus position. Be comfortable. Make it easy. Make it simple so that you can get into the state of thoughtless awareness, and thereby you will find those benefits that will come. Tingling and heat. So heat is a reflection that there's some friction. So as our energy is rising up, it's encountering some friction as it's working within our subtle system. The energy inherently is absolutely cool. So when our system is in a balanced state, we're going to feel it as cool on the head and on the palms of the hands. But as it's working, especially as it's starting off, that heat is going to be apparent. It's fine. But what I would suggest is if you have enough time, quality versus quantity, if you have enough quality time to meditate so that you can get to that state where you're feeling the heat reduce, you're feeling the heaviness reduce, you're feeling the pressure reduce. That is a reflection that our system has got into a more balanced state. So it's okay to feel heat, but if you can stick it out until the heat reduces, that's also great. My thoughts aren't too distracting, but the physical pain is. We already did that one. I hope I answered that question. If you're not feeling in the hand, same thing. If you're feeling here, not here, here, not here, you're not feeling on the head, you're not feeling on the hands, whatever you're not feeling, don't get hung up on that. Focus on getting into the state of thoughtless awareness. Don't worry about what you're feeling. You will get there. If you can get into meditation and sustain that, all of these sensations will develop on the hands and on the head. You can pay attention to where you're feeling it, but don't get distracted by the sensations. Focus more on getting into that thoughtless state. So right middle finger, I'm not going to get into what each finger and which hand correspond to. I'll leave that for subsequent weeks. Heat, again, some that is corresponding to some friction. Some work is taking place. That heat is work. I'm so glad you feel relaxed. You've got the magic recipe. You can replicate it. That's what we're going to be doing throughout the week. I felt cool and tingling, hands and fingers, the palms of the hands. That's all great stuff. Congratulations. This is the beginning. Lightness, that's a fantastic thing as well. So this energy is reflected in its essence, tingling and cool, light. When it's in an imbalanced state, when it's working, we're going to feel more warmth, more heaviness, more friction. Great, and that's for our hands and for the top of the head. Thank you guys for joining. I'm not going to let you go without introducing you to Vaibo, who is our instructor for next week. Let me just make sure I've answered all your fantastic questions. Your dog, we've got a comment that came in that the dog came in and meditated. Our animals, our pets will respond to this. They will gravitate towards this energy. It's not a coincidence. It happens all of the time. I think I answered all the questions. I apologize if I missed anything. Yep, feeling energy in lots of different ways is all good. It's really just corresponding to what's happening. So I want to introduce you to Vaibo, who is your instructor for next week. Vaibo would love to say hi, so I'm going to unmute him before we say goodbye for the night. On your video.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Hello, everyone. This is Vaibhav here. Again, I hope that you guys have had a great class today. I did. And I'm going to be your instructor next week. And I can't wait to see you guys next week. And I will be covering the 3 energy channels next week. So I hope you all will be there, and I will be very happy to share this pure knowledge with you all. Thank you.
So that's what we've got for you. Thank you so much for coming today. Thank you, Vaibo. Can't wait for next week. This has been a fantastic experience. Love to you all, light to you all, vibrations, meditation to you all. Keep your meditations going this week, and we look forward to you joining us next week, same time, same place. Have a fantastic rest of your evening and rest of your week. Take care. Bye-bye.